A while ago I said expect more announcements soon. So let's talk about the recent announcement that Machine Games, subsidiary of Bethesda, which will soon be one to Microsoft, are making a new Indiana Jones game. And this announcement says a lot about Lucasfilm's games and Disney, but it also says a good bit about Microsoft and the acquisition. Let's put those numbers into perspective. We have $4.5 billion for Lucasfilm, $4 billion for Marvel, and $7.5 billion for Bethesda. When you look at those numbers, some would say they overpaid. After all, look at the cultural impact Marvel movies has had and the revenue the Star Wars license has generated. Even though not all the movies were well received, they still passed that billion mark. Plus they have this little guy. And with 10 new adaptations announced, you'll be watching more and they'll be seeing more profits soon. But back to Bethesda, you gotta look at the bigger picture, and that's in an 150 billion frame. You see, one point you could make is that the industry is growing, so it's almost safe to bet that Bethesda, with all its subsidiaries and games, which annually brings in around 500 million, will rise in value. Remember, Microsoft were in the talks to acquire these guys not just in the past, but also with other studios. Those prices have long since gone up. That's because so has the pie. Add to the fact that as developers, you can make a lot more revenue with minimum input. Look at DLCs, microtransactions, and look at the mobile and indie market. While this is a good point to explain the price tag, by itself, it's not good enough. Let's go deeper. So now we got Orion, Bethesda's streaming tech, which reduces latency by 20% per frame and 40% bandwidth. All this while at 4K. A far cry from what Microsoft is currently offering with XCloud and Gamepass, which as we know now will be pivotal going forward. This edges them past Google Stadia and GeForce Now. Not only do they have the games, but now they got the technology. There's not going to be a debate about pros and cons of each service. It's over. You win hands down. However, we're not at the 7.5 billion mark yet, at least for some. So let's talk games. On the surface, we know exactly what to expect from Bethesda and their studios. Elder Scrolls, Doom, Wolfenstein, just to name a few. But no one expected to see 2 new IPs in Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo. And that's when Indiana comes in. This came as a surprise. He's no Spider-Man, but they secured an established IP with a movie coming out. Movies that are known to do well. An IP likely too big to remain exclusive. But that's at Microsoft's discretion, it seems. If Spider-Man isn't exclusive, it's not a reach to say this will be too. All this depends on a contract, but of course, all this added to the price tag. And that's the point I'm trying to make. We don't know what else is being developed or owned. Remember, Fallout 4 was only announced in June 2018, and it dropped 5 months later. For a title of that status, that's huge. Only company privy to this information is Microsoft, the purchaser. And if they paid $7.5 billion, there's probably more announcements ready to go. Maybe that new Star Wars game, Knights of the Old Republic 3, is being made by ZeniMax Online Studios, soon to be a Microsoft subsidiary. If it doesn't make sense now, let's take another step. That's why you have to consider Microsoft's strategy with Game Pass and everything I've said as a whole. Just remember, the value of something isn't always what the market says it is, just what it's actually worth to you. If Microsoft wants to be the first in the subscription and streaming video game market, they need games. They might need the Orion tech to give them an edge. They need established IPs. They need developers. They need to publish a couple of AAA games a year. They need quality in quantity. They need a diverse portfolio, and they need all these on Game Pass day one. No questions asked. And if they get there first, what does that mean? When you think of Netflix of games and streaming, if their name comes to your mind first in a 150 billion industry, well, how much is that worth? It's worth a lot. Probably more than 7.5 billion. But I digress. When you look at it from that angle, everything that's happened back then makes sense. As I said before, expect more announcements soon.